How I lost $10,000 to a person who doesn't exist. I fell in love with someone who doesn't exist. It sounds like the plot of a movie, right? But for 6 months, this was my actual life. I sent this person $10,000. This is the story of how I got scammed by a deep fake. I'm going to show you the exact playbook they used on me, and more importantly, how you can tell if the person you're talking to online is even real. It all started on a totally normal Tuesday. I was scrolling through a social media app, just killing time, when I saw her profile. Let's call her Chloe. Her pictures were stunning, but not in a polished, influencer way. They felt real. She was supposedly a freelance graphic designer on the West Coast, loved to hike, had a golden retriever. Her profile was perfect. And yeah, maybe that should have been the first warning sign. Look, like a lot of us, I was feeling a little lonely. Work had me swamped. My social life had shrunk, and the idea of a new connection was exciting. So, I sent her a message. She wrote back almost immediately. The conversation was just easy, effortless. We talked for hours that first night, and it felt like I'd known her for years. She was smart, funny, and asked about my day like she actually cared. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. We moved off the app to a private messaging service pretty quickly. She said it was for privacy. I didn't think twice. The next few weeks were a complete blur of constant communication. We texted all day, every day. She'd send me photos of her dog on a walk, the sunset from her apartment, and a meal she was cooking. It all felt so incredibly real. This relationship moved faster than any I'd ever been in. She'd say things like, "I've never felt a connection like this." And I believed her, because I felt it too. And this is where the technology gets really scary. Scammers are using artificial intelligence to create what are called deep fakes. Think of it like a hyper-realistic digital mask. They can generate fake videos, fake pictures, and even clone voices. And this technology has gotten terrifyingly good. About a month in, we had our first video call. I was nervous, but the second her face popped up on my screen, it all just melted away. It was her. It was Chloe, looking exactly like her pictures. We talked for over an hour. She laughed at my dumb jokes. Her smile actually reached her eyes, and all her mannerisms felt completely natural. There was nothing that screamed fake. I can mimic facial expressions and subtle gestures, making it incredibly difficult to spot. But the voice was the most convincing part. With just a few seconds of audio, scammers can use AI to clone a voice, perfectly replicating its tone and inflection. Her voice was warm and always had this little hint of a laugh in it. We had several video calls after that, and each one just cemented the fantasy. She was building my trust, brick by brick. With every good morning text and late night call, the relationship felt genuine because every single interaction was precision engineered to feel that way. These AI scams create a deep emotional bond over weeks or months before they ever ask for a single dime. Looking back, the red flags were there. They were tiny, but they were there. The first clue, the video call quality. It was never perfect. There was always a little bit of lag, or the image would get pixelated for a second. I just figured it was a bad internet connection, but deepfake technology often struggles to render in real time, causing these little visual glitches. A couple of times, when she turned her head quickly, I saw a split-second distortion around her face, like the image couldn't quite keep up. Then came the excuses. I'm a pretty spontaneous guy. One Friday, I had a long weekend, and on a whim, I suggested I fly out to see her. She immediately panicked. It was a whole thing about her landlord doing surprise inspections. The next time I suggested it, she had a sudden family emergency. There was always a reason. A real relationship moves toward meeting in person. A scam is designed to keep you at a digital distance. She also got weird about doing anything unexpected on camera. Security experts say one way to spot a deepfake is to ask the person to do something the AI isn't trained for, like turning their head 90 degrees or holding up a random object next to their face. I once jokingly asked her to hold up her house keys. She just laughed it off and changed the subject. At the time, it just felt quirky. In reality, the AI couldn't generate that image. It was a system failure. And the biggest red flag, her professional footprint was non-existent. For a graphic designer, she had no online portfolio, no LinkedIn, nothing. Her social media was locked down tight. She blamed it on a crazy ex. A classic sympathy story to stop you from digging around. About 5 months in, I was completely hooked. I was in love with a person I'd never met. A person who was really just a collection of pixels and programmed responses. The trust was absolute, and that's when the trap was sprung. It started with a frantic phone call. Audio only. Her voice was trembling. She said her mom was in a serious accident and in the hospital. The story was detailed, emotional, and completely gut-wrenching. She claimed insurance wouldn't cover immediate medical bills, and she was short on cash because a client's payment was late. This is a classic scammer playbook. Create a sudden emergency that requires urgent financial help. They prey on your emotional connection and your desire to be the hero. She didn't ask for a lot at first. It was $2,000 for a specific procedure. She swore she'd pay me back the next week. And because of the trust we'd built, because of the video calls and the constant "I love yous," I didn't hesitate. I sent the money. A few days later, another complication. This time it was 3D or so loan for post-op care. I hesitated a little, but she was sobbing on the phone, sounding completely desperate. She even sent me what looked like a hospital bill. An image that was, I now know, completely faked. So, I sent it. The final ask came a week later. $5,000 to move her mom to a long-term care facility. She swore this was the last of it. That was the moment a tiny voice in my head screamed, "This is wrong." But I was already in for $5,000. The shame and the desperate hope that it was all real made me do it. I sent the final $5,000, and then she was gone. For 2 days after that last payment, there was just silence. My messages went unread. My calls went to voicemail. The panic started to set in. I started frantically searching online. Using the few scraps of info I had, I did a reverse image search on her profile pictures. Something I should have done on day one. The results were sickening. The photos belonged to a real woman, an Instagram model with over 100,000 followers, who lived in another country and was happily married. The scammers had stolen her identity to create their fake persona. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. Chloe, the woman I'd spent 6 months falling for, wasn't real. The conversations, the inside jokes, the video calls, it was all a lie. A high-tech performance by criminals using AI. What followed was a toxic mix of humiliation, betrayal, and a profound sadness. It wasn't just about the money. It was the emotional violation. I felt like an idiot, and the shame was crushing. That's what these scammers count on. They know most victims will be too embarrassed to ever report it. Losing $10,000 was awful, but the emotional recovery has been so much harder. But I refuse to let shame keep me quiet, because this is happening to thousands of people. Romance scams are a massive problem. In 2023 alone, the FTC reported that victims lost over $1 billion, and deepfake technology is making these scams more convincing than ever before. So, how do you protect yourself? First, be skeptical of any online relationship that feels too perfect, too fast. Scammers build fairy tales to get you hooked. Second, verify everything. Do a reverse image search on their pictures. Look for a professional footprint, like a LinkedIn profile. If they have zero online presence, that is a huge red flag. Third, test the tech. Insist on live video calls and ask them to do something specific and unpredictable. Ask them to touch their nose, then their ear. Watch for glitches or unnatural movements. And if their audio ever sounds flat or robotic, be suspicious. Fourth, and this is the non-negotiable one, never, ever send money to someone you have not met in person. I don't care how heartbreaking the story is or how real it feels. For your real family and friends, it's a good idea to set up a safe word or a secret question. That way, if you get a frantic call asking for cash, you can verify it's really them. And finally, trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Loneliness makes us vulnerable, and scammers are masters at exploiting that. Sharing this isn't easy, but if it stops one person from going through what I went through, it's worth it. The people who do this are criminals, hiding behind technology and turning our basic human need for connection into a weapon. By talking about it, we take away their power. If you found this helpful, please give it a like and subscribe. More importantly, Share it with someone you care about. You never know who might need to see this. Thanks for listening.